Okay, I just had a quick thought as everybody was talking. I was just wondering, hello everybody, before I start. I was just wondering, looking at Peter and I with our white hair and Kevin looking young and the rest of it, I just wondered, do older people in general have more trouble understanding and accepting the new presentation compared to younger people? Because older people tend to have a lot more baggage and not a lot of fixed ideas, and they're not going to change and all this sort of thing.
You're talking about the older people have the baggage, or the younger people?
No, well, I mean, everybody has baggage, but as you get into sort of 60s, 70s, you tend to have a lot more baggage.
Well, you become, you might say, more fossilized because through your whole life, and again, most people don't pay attention to their personal self. They look to the outer world. They just create thoughts. You're just constantly creating thoughts, okay? And for the most part, you're not paying attention to the effect of what you're deciding and agreeing to. You're just thinking, oh, I like that, or I don't like that, or no, whatever. And actually, that's all agreement too. You just don't recognize how it works. So it's not about that. It's really about the individual. It has nothing to do with the body. It does, but it doesn't. And it's how the individual relates to their body and their mind. Their five bodies, which is the physical, which most people think this is what they are, and their astral, which is their sensations and their memory and their mind, and most people don't refer to their intuition. They don't go that far. They usually just go emotion, mind, and memory, and then it all dumps down into the physical. So no, it just depends upon the individual and the intent of the individual. That's why as you look out into the world, you see one person doing one thing and another person doing another thing. So and it can be two twins, but they can go in the opposite direction because everybody decides their life accordingly. So, and you know, the new presentation again is just a reference to something. And there's so many things in the world that are references to. It's just that how you recognize it and come around to it. And the real guidance comes in to when people start to recognize something at a particular point, to where they're interested in recognizing more. So it's, you know, it's because there's so many variables with our free will. How can you really say what it is? No, that's where you, that's where companies start taking statistics and start categorizing things. Well, this many people said this and that this many people said that. No, I don't really get into any of that. I see each person and they have the free will to step up. That's it. And then from there, we see, you know, what they're looking at, what their interest is. And so, again, it's like we're in the farmer's market out there and we're selling oranges. And so if people come up and they say, well, we'd like oranges, you know, and so that's kind of the idea, but not everybody wants oranges. And so it's up to them to do that. So, and that doesn't, you know, that could be a little child or an older lady or a grandfather. It's not about the body types. It's not about that. But really what it's about is that the individual wanting to see more and start their own journey to get through all of this creation that they've been the effect of for lifetimes, and to really understand what's going on more so than just sound good ideas that they've known for the longest time. So, you know, again, as you talk to people, listen to how they talk. You know, it's you can talk to anybody, your friends, and they'll say, well, I read this and the scientists say this and whatever. And again, so, but it's really how you see it from what you've experienced, what it comes to. And that's the best part. So I hear these things in the world. I hear what people say, but I look to this isness, okay, and compare it, etc. What does that make sense with? And does it make sense at all to anything, or is it just something created, you know, like gummy bears out there that taste good? Okay, and do we really need them? So yeah, it's an interesting journey, isn't it? And so, young lady, you're always young. You notice that no matter how old the body gets, you feel the same because that you're experiencing your real awareness as you're in the body watching it grow old. You see?
Okay, thanks. Yeah, in my head, I'm 18. Outside, I feel about 90 sometimes. Okay, thanks very much.
Okay, thank you, Ancient Gwen. Okay, I'd like to share some dream experiences then that I've had. All right. The first dream, I was strolling into what seemed to be quite an expansive cave, almost like an open outside area, but I had the impression of confinement. I was with a group of people. The only one that I could identify from this group was my deceased Gran, and she features quite regularly in my dreams, so she may be a guide, as Duane has suggested when I had mentioned her from my dreams before. Anyway, our little group came across lots of other people, and they were just drifting around, doing their business, seemingly a bit forlorn. So my group and I began singing the new you. We did this with great enthusiasm, and were laughing and dancing, and, as you can imagine, we drew attention, and ultimately we had everyone in the cave dancing and singing the new you with us. And as a side note, it's interesting how, as Duane has described, other levels of life you perceive more as impressions and recognition, as opposed to the mechanics we rely on via the body vehicle to view the physical. And I'm getting that with dreams of late. There is what I can see, and then the experience fills itself out with more information through the impressions that I get. I can imagine that someday, as this awareness expands, a dream I may have in the future would look entirely different were I to have had the same dream at this moment.
That's it?
It is.
Okay, well, the cave is basically the physical realm itself. And so it's like a cave here. This is why it's dark. This is why when you look at the so-called sky or outer space, it's all black because it's just a big cave. And so you're going along, and the psychic realms are really like the water itself. You're under the water or you're on top of it, but you're in a boat, so you're on top of it. So you might say you're on top of things, and yes, you come across others, and the basic idea is while you're here, you're sharing. That's what you're doing, and all of a sudden, everybody's happy. So that's a cool experience.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. We were all singing and dancing and singing the new year. It was good stuff. And another dream I had, I was with another group, and the identities of which I was again unable to determine. And we seemed to be at a resort, and I didn't recognise where this place was. And anyway, in this resort, we had access to monitoring equipment, and we were scanning the area beyond the facility's boundaries, and were perturbed to discover no form of life. So we went out on an expedition beyond the resort, and discovered everything was dead, in a state of decay, and no life whatsoever. We determined severe levels of radiation signatures, and most intriguing of all, there were ghosts everywhere. I guessed these were the ghosts of the inhabitants that were there before. We could see them roaming around everywhere, and we were passing our hands right through their apparitional bodies. So it seems that we had been secure in the only safe haven. Yeah. And in my dreams, I'm often with a group, and I seem unable to determine who they are. It doesn't really concern me or occur to me during the dream as to their identities, but it's only when I wake I sort of ponder as to who these people may have been.
Yeah, well, there are people you know. That's why you're there. It's just like when you're with a group of people here. It's already a given. You know them, so you're not thinking in your mind, "Oh, that's Bill, that's Susie, that's Jim." You see, you just know them, right? You see, it's the same. And on the real side, you know these people, so you're with a group of people that are aware, and you're experiencing what you are. And in this situation, seen it many times, it's self-evident. So it's not hard to guess what you're seeing, is it? Because again, things are happening to the earth, and it shows up. We've had many experiences from others. We had an Asian program about over a year and a half ago for years, and they were seeing the future of their country, etc. And then it came to pass. That's why they're not on the Friday Skypes anymore. And so, yeah, the Earth is a particular, and it doesn't have to be that way, but as things, this is the cause and effect, as things are being done, as the causes continue, the effects show up, and that's what you're seeing too. And as people are, this is a different time, as in the past, where people had wars and they had guns and swords and they killed each other, and they went back and forth. Now we're dealing with radiation and disintegration. And all these things. And so this affects the individual differently. And so when they pass to the first spot on the real side, which is the astral worlds, well, again, they've been, you might say, inoculated a particular way, and that effect, they're living that effect still until they can recognize otherwise. So that's kind of your experience and how you see things. Just like in the scientific movies, science fiction movies, you're seeing these things and the bizarreness of it, you see. And, all this stuff piques people's interest because this world is full of sensationalism. It's like it piques people's interest to see, oh my gosh, let's see how they die. Let's see how this person dies, whatever. And then all of a sudden you're totally involved with it too, because again, this is the interest. People have been trained to be interested in this phenomena of scary stuff. Again, you look at the movies and the scary movies and all these things that take place, and you go back to the indigenous people. They never did any of these things. But now we're in this era where all these things are commonplace. And any of the movies, thrillers, mysteries, etc., none of this makes sense with the natural environment, but we have an interest there. And so these are avenues to how to better survive too with what we're doing. But you're seeing, I would say, again, that's a future view, but it's already here. It's already happening. And so you're seeing it also on the real side. And as it's become so here because of what people are deciding. So, yeah, a little bit scary, huh? But very real.
Yeah, sure is a bleak picture of things to come, but there we go. And another dream I had, I was with yet another group. So I'm certainly keeping this group busy. Anyway, we came to a street setting, and an area of which was being used as a kind of fighting tournament. I wasn't a participant, I was just an observer, which is probably just as well, considering the combatants. The combatants were the most exotically strange creatures and beings my eyes had ever seen, with a few more humanoid ones thrown in. As the tournament continued, one creature established itself as King of the Creatures. I can barely find words to describe him, or it. Its appearance was almost offensive. As big as a house, a huge mass with an elongated domed head. The only feature I could see was its unnecessarily long tongue, lolling every which way. While basking in the glory of its victory as king of the monsters, an individual stepped forward, looking very much like a very ordinary human, dwarfed by the monstrosity. He gave me a smile, then proceeded to bop the monstrous beast, on the nose, and it collapsed, unconscious. This man then said to me, "See, he wasn't as scary as his body suggested," or words to that effect. And I'm fairly certain that was a guide providing a demonstration that things can look physically intimidating, but physicality has nothing on awareness and the ability to handle oneself that this state of awareness provides.
And that was that. Okay, so, when you're on the real side too, others, they know that they see you coming, and they also know that they can create any image they want. And so they will create like this tournament. Again, you see it in the world here. All these things are staged, like the school shootings and whatever's out there, a lot of the demonstrations and anything else, the political arena, it's all staged. It's all staged for the public to get them agree. So on the real side too, they're doing the same thing. So what they do is they set up this combating thing, and I'm imagining it's like a Star Wars idea, okay? And so to kind of perk your interest and to see what's going on. But at the same time, the boys show up if something's going on, and you're there. Well, they'll take a moment to provide the demonstration. It's their free will to do so. So they're showing you that things aren't what they appear to be. You see. So again, we have ideas about ourselves and who we are and what things are. We're self-convinced in a particular way. Just like when we're here in this body, we're self-convinced that we're human. And so as long as you are, then you are. It's just that simple. But you created the body. So what does that tell you? Okay? But your awareness. So yeah, so that was your little adventure, and now you start to see that things aren't as what they appear to be, and a lot of these things, again, they're just staged, just to get your attention and to see if you will agree and if you will participate. You see?
Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, an observation that I had that stemmed from that dream was I was imagining that certain creatures encountered on the other life levels beyond the physical are so far removed from our regular experience that it's maybe hard to view them, and perhaps with more awareness they might look different as the awareness, impressions and recognition kicks in and adds detail to the experience and the creature. I remember in a book by Stephen King called From a Buick 8, and the car itself was a portal to another dimension, and the reason given for why it looked like a car was that it had to look like something. And the sensory system, the physical sensory system, is bombarded by thousands of information inputs constantly. But from all this, the decoding vehicle that creates one's world from this mass of data only takes 40 individual pieces of electromagnetic information. So I'm imagining the information from the portal was of a nature too difficult to assemble into an image based on 40 of the thousands of informational data pieces. So the best it could construct from that was a car. Based on that, one could surmise that everyone sees a completely different world based on their awareness, as the extent of one's awareness affects the extent of the information received, through impressions and add to an experience beyond the mechanical world assembling processor that is the physical vehicle.
Okay, was there a period on that sentence?
No.
So it's kind of like you just all of a sudden jump off a cliff. It's like, okay, all right. It's cute. It's cute, Kevin. So, yeah, again, it's according to the viewer. You take 100 people that go watch a movie, and they're all going to have their ideas of it, and they're not going to be, for the most part, they'll be similar, but not the same. And certain people will see certain things that other people do not see. And this becomes the interesting journey through creation, because, watch yourself as you consider things from the so-called real side or here, which is all here and now. There's really no real side. Okay, we just use this for the mind because everything is an isness. And so you consider it how to be whatever, and that is that just like here, people continually search for knowledge and history and all these things, etc., created by others. Others, of course, created it. And so you're thumbing through creation, thinking that, oh, well, over here is this answer or that answer or whatever. People shop around for the knowledge, etc. And all knowledge is created. I created the new presentation. It's created out of nothing. But the important part is that when someone creates something, what does it reference? That becomes the difference. And so most things are created to reference some other reference or idea, you see? So I reference ideas that have been created as references to what people have experienced, but not as a reality, you see? In other words, people like David Icke or whatever, they've so-called discovered the history of the reptilians or whatever. Well, whether it's correct or not, what does it really matter? The end result is they're here, they're doing what they're doing. That's the reality of it. The history, well, that's just something that our mind plays with to substantiate in a way what's going on. And so, it's very interesting how we go through this. And usually, again, we get an answer to something, kind of like that movie National Treasure with Nicolas Cage. He made 2 of them. And so he gets a hint here, he gets a hint there. And at first his dad says, well, it's all baloney, etc. Well, and then finally he gets to the treasure, etc. So this is what we're doing in creation. And that is that we're going through these steps, and you yourself, it's only you to figure this out. That's it. It's all up to you. And so what is everything referencing? And most things, again, are referencing other references and ideas that sound good, like the God idea or salvation or all these things. And so what does that really mean? People are waiting to be saved, waiting for God to fix the world when it's everybody's making the world as it is. So then you come to this isness and look to that to see how everything relates accordingly. Well, that becomes the toughie because you don't have experience with that, you see. And when you relate to something, you're relating your experience of it to whatever you're involved in. So let's say you took a class in science in school, and you learned certain things about science or biology or whatever it is, or history. And so when you're involved in something, maybe a project or with others or a discussion or something like that, or at a conference, you're going to relate what you experience. You're going to put in the pot, you might say, and so is everybody else. And pretty soon from all that creation, they're going to many times come into some other created resolve. It's like, okay, well, we've all discussed this, we've all put it in together. So now, because of what everybody shared, it looks like it's now all of a sudden it's this. And see, it's just from one creation to another creation. And it really has nothing to do with the isness, the reality life is to recognize. So, yeah, there's that part of us that keeps chasing these ideas and doesn't take the time to see what's real and relate in accordance with the true reality life is, which is this isness. So, as you go through your experiences and try to figure these things out, again, look at how and look at what you relate to try and figure them out. You see, there's a difference. Now, when you start to recognize your real awareness and start to relate to everything in creation according to that, and especially the isness, then you will better figure out the experiences you're going through here, you see, instead of just secondary ideas that have been created from others. So everything that I create here with the new presentation, I see it from the is, and I best define it according to my personal self as it relates to what I got it from. But everybody else, it's mind stuff. They're just basically sharing ideas that sound good. It's like, oh, let's do this, or let's invent this, or somebody said this. So let's go off of that and let's just do this. Okay. So, as you're in creation, you're the decider also. You decide how you're going to relate and figure life out and figure yourself out with it. You see?
Okay, thank you. I'll leave the Stephen King references aside then for the foreseeable future.